Her best friend mocked me in front of everyone. You don't deserve her. She demanded I apologize to him or lose her forever. So I stayed silent, walked out, and let reality do the talking. Weeks later, she showed up at my door in tears after he tried to replace me. I'm 34, and for almost 2 years I thought I was in a solid, steady relationship with my girlfriend, Emily. We weren't perfect, no couple is, but things felt good enough that I could imagine a future with her. We shared routines, celebrated small wins together, and even had quiet Sunday mornings that felt like they were straight out of a life I wanted to hold on to. But through all of that, there was always one shadow hanging over us, her best friend, Mark. She'd known him since college, long before I ever came into the picture. From the beginning, she made it clear that he was just a friend, nothing more, and I wanted to believe her. I've never been the type to police who someone can or can't be friends with, especially not someone I care about. But something about Mark was different. It wasn't jealousy. It was the way he carried himself around me. The way his face tightened when I walked into the room. The way he would crack small jokes at my expense that always seemed to toe the line between humor and insult. If you've ever been around someone who clearly doesn't like you but hides behind sarcasm, you know what I mean. It wasn't outright hostility, but it was there, simmering. I asked Emily about it once, gently. She brushed it off. That's just how Mark is. He jokes around with everyone. Don't take it so seriously. And maybe I could have lived with that explanation if it had just been me. But over time, I noticed that his comments only ever cut in one direction, mine. He wasn't teasing her other friends. He wasn't making the same jabs at anyone else. Just me. Still, I let it go. I told myself not to stir up unnecessary drama. I told myself that if Emily trusted him, then I should at least try to tolerate him. Relationships require compromise, right? The breaking point came one evening when Emily invited me over for a small dinner gathering at her apartment. She liked hosting these little get-togethers, wine, home-cooked food, and a few close friends. That night, there were about 6 of us around the table, including Mark. At first, it was fine. Light conversation, stories from work, jokes about old college memories. I even started to think maybe I had misread Mark all along, because he was being relatively civil. For the first half hour, I thought, maybe tonight will be different. But then, little by little, he started. It began with subtle digs. Comments like, "Oh, you wouldn't understand, that's more our thing," when Emily and her friends shared a laugh. Or, "Yeah, that's not really your style, is it?" when I chimed in about music. Nobody else seemed to notice, or maybe they just didn't want to step into it. I tried to ignore it, but the words piled up, cutting deeper each time. I kept telling myself, stay calm, don't ruin Emily's night, don't make it a big deal. But Mark wasn't done. His comments grew sharper, less disguised as jokes, until it was impossible to brush them off. I sat there, sipping my wine, wondering if Emily noticed how openly dismissive he was being. I caught her eye once or twice, but she looked away, almost like she didn't want to acknowledge what was happening. By the time dessert came out, I knew something was building. I could feel it in the way Mark leaned back in his chair, watching me with that familiar edge. He was waiting for a moment, a chance to say something big enough to finally draw me out. And that moment came. The room had that hum of easy conversation, glasses clinking and forks scraping plates, when Mark decided it was his moment. He set his glass down with just enough weight to draw attention, leaned forward slightly, and looked straight at me. Then he said it. "Honestly, I don't know what she sees in you. She could do so much better. You don't deserve her." The words hung there, heavy, cutting right through the small talk. Conversations around the table stopped. You could feel everyone pause, like they were suddenly sitting in the middle of something they didn't want to be part of. I didn't say anything right away. My first instinct was to just swallow it, laugh it off maybe, like I had so many times before. But this one was different. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't sarcasm masked as humor. This was a direct, public challenge. I looked across the table at him. He had that look like he'd been waiting to say it for months, like finally he could get it off his chest. His eyes were steady, daring me to react. I stayed calm. I could feel the heat rise in me, but I didn't raise my voice, didn't slam my hand on the table. Instead, I kept my tone measured. "Mark," I said, "that was out of line. You've made your feelings about me clear since day one, but what you just said is beyond disrespectful. I don't know what you think gives you the right to talk to me that way, especially here, especially in front of everyone. But I'm not going to sit quietly and let you tear me down." The room went dead silent. Everyone froze, waiting to see what would happen next. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats, avoiding eye contact, as if maybe that would make the tension disappear. Mark smirked, like he thought he had gotten what he wanted out of me, but I didn't bite further. I didn't insult him back. I didn't throw accusations or try to one-up him. I just held my ground, calmly but firmly. "You don't have to like me," I continued, "but you will respect me. I've done nothing to you, and I'm not going to accept this kind of treatment anymore. I said it evenly, without flinching. Then I leaned back in my chair and let the silence sit. Nobody moved for a good 5 seconds. You could hear the clock ticking on the wall, the faint hiss of the oven still cooling down in the kitchen. It was one of those moments where everyone knew the dynamic had shifted. Mark didn't fire back. He looked at me for a beat, then leaned away, grabbing his drink again. But the damage was done. The words he had thrown out couldn't be unsaid, and my response couldn't be ignored. I glanced at Emily then, expecting, hoping, that she'd finally acknowledge how far over the line he had gone, that she'd at least show she understood why I had to say something. But instead of relief, I saw something else in her expression. Annoyance. Her lips pressed tight, her arms folded. She wasn't looking at him. She was looking at me. That's when I realized the night wasn't going to end with Mark. It was going to end with her. For a moment, I thought Emily was going to step in, maybe calm the situation, maybe even acknowledge that her friend had gone too far. But instead, she leaned forward, her voice sharp and cutting through the silence. "Apologize," she snapped. I blinked, unsure I had heard her right. "What? You don't get to talk to him like that," she shot back. "He's my best friend. If you can't respect him, then we're done." The room went colder than it already was. Everyone at the table looked away, eyes darting to their plates, to their glasses, to anywhere but the three of us. I could feel the second-hand embarrassment radiating from her other friends, but none of them said a word. I sat there, stunned. Just minutes earlier, I'd been humiliated in front of everyone by a guy who had been undermining me since the day we met. And instead of standing up for me, or at least acknowledging how inappropriate it was, she was telling me to apologize to him. I could have argued. I could have pointed out how Mark had been antagonizing me from the start. I could have raised my voice, fought my case, tried to explain what should have already been obvious to her. But as I looked at Emily, arms crossed, I realized something. She had already made her choice. And I wasn't it. So instead of giving her the fight she seemed to want, I just stopped. I leaned back in my chair and smiled. Not a smug smile, not a mocking one, just calm, quiet acceptance. That silence was my answer. I didn't argue. I didn't try to win anyone over. I let the weight of her words sit there, and if she wanted to throw the relationship away to protect her best friend's ego, then so be it. Emily's face twisted with frustration when I didn't respond. She pushed back from the table, grabbed her things, and stormed toward the door. "You know what? Forget it. I don't have to deal with this right now." The door slammed behind her, leaving the room in a kind of stunned limbo. A couple of her friends exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable. Mark sat there with a faint look of satisfaction, though he avoided my eyes. Nobody said anything. After a few awkward minutes, I thanked Emily's friends for dinner, stood up, and left. My chest felt heavy, but I wasn't angry. Just done. When I got home that night, I sat on the couch in the quiet of my apartment, replaying everything. The truth was painfully clear. If she couldn't even defend me against someone who had disrespected me over and over, then what kind of future did we really have together? I didn't text her. I didn't call. I didn't explain myself further. That silence wasn't just my answer at dinner. It became my answer for the days to come. And as the first week passed with no contact, I started to realize something else. Letting go wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. That night after the dinner, when Emily stormed out, I didn't chase her. I didn't send a text asking where she was, or if she was okay. I didn't feel the need to. Something in me had settled. If she wanted to walk away over that, then she had already told me everything I needed to know. The first few days were quiet. No calls, no messages, nothing. And I didn't reach out either. It wasn't a game. It wasn't about winning the breakup. It was about realizing that I wasn't going to beg for respect that should have been there from the beginning. Weeks went by. I started filling my time with things I'd let slide. I hit the gym more often. I picked up extra hours where I could, met up with old friends I hadn't seen in a while, even found myself rediscovering hobbies I had shelved during the relationship. My world got a little bigger once I stopped revolving around her and her circle. Then one evening, out of the blue, there was a knock at my door. I opened it, and there was Emily. She looked nothing like the woman who had stormed out weeks before. Her eyes were tired, her shoulders slumped. It was the look of someone who hadn't been sleeping well. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice low. I stepped aside, let her in, and we sat down. She hesitated before speaking, like she was trying to find the right words. Finally, she said it. "I regret everything that happened that night." She admitted that after I left, things with Mark shifted. He wasn't the supportive best friend she thought he was. Without me in the picture, the dynamic between them changed. He started making comments that weren't so friendly anymore. And not long after, he tried to make a move on her. That, she said, was when everything clicked. She realized what I had been trying to tell her all along. That his so-called jokes at my expense weren't harmless. That he had never respected our relationship. That night at dinner hadn't been about protecting her. It had been about keeping me in my place until he thought he could replace me. Tears welled up in her eyes as she told me all this. She said she wished she had defended me, that she should have stood up to him, that she should have seen the truth sooner. I listened quietly, and when she was done, I nodded. Emily, I said, calm and steady, I believe you regret it, but I can't go back to the way things were. The respect was broken the moment you asked me to apologize to him. Once that's gone, the relationship can't be the same. She cried then. She begged me to reconsider, said she had cut Mark out of her life, that she'd learned her lesson. But my answer didn't change. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even bitter. I just knew that going backward wasn't an option. Eventually, she left that night in tears, and from what I've heard since, she still regrets that evening. She lost both of us, me and the so-called best friend she defended. In the end, I didn't need to shout or fight for her to see the truth. I just needed to walk away and let reality show her what she chose over me. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.